I can.
Okay. Hey everyone, and welcome to Life with a Cheri on Top. I am your host, Cheri Hagan, and today I am joined by Dr. Cindy Starke. Thank you for joining me, Dr. Starke.
Thank you so much for having me. I am so excited to be here today.
So I didn't even ask. Should I call you Dr. Starke? Should I call you Cindy?
You can call me Cindy. I feel like unless I have a doctor's coat on and a stethoscope around my neck, it's okay.
Great, thank you. So Dr. Starke / Cindy she's an internal medicine doctor, but in addition to that, she's an author. She wrote a book entitled From Fear and Failure to the Finish Line. Wow, that's a mouthful for me. Sorry. And I love the subject of the book. So why don't you tell everybody kind of why you wrote the book?
I would love to. So I was 46 years old, and it was a long story to how I got to this path of attempting my first Ironman, but none of that backstory really matters. So I had this idea in my mind that I wanted to see what all the human spirit and human body could do. And I've always been a runner, but I ran 5Ks. So, I was doing 30 minutes. I felt like I was like top of the world. And did not know how to swim, and maybe just tooled around a bike a little bit in my spare time when I was a kid. But I was trying to see what all the human spirit, human body could do. And I hired a business coach. And he used the Ironman as a parallel to building a business. So he was trying to teach me what I could do to build a business, and he was using all the tasks of crossing an Ironman finish line as the representation of what was needed in business building. So I trained. Yeah, literally. And so I bought a bike. I went and took some swimming lessons, and when I tell you the path to the Ironman was circuitous, I want to tell you just two specific things that happened while I was trying to learn how to long distance bike and long distance swim and long distance run.
Okay.
So first thing that happened, it was literally when I was on my bike and I just got about 20 feet out of my front yard, okay? I fell and broke a ligament in my thumb, and I had to get reconstructive surgery. That's how the whole journey started.
My gosh.
$17,000 reconstructive surgery, a cast for so many weeks, all this occupational therapy set me back so much. That was day one. And then so I finally got that all better, and then I couldn't even learn. I couldn't clip into the bike. I got really scared. That's how I failed the first time, because I didn't know how to unclip out of the bike. So I went through months and months of one clip on and then just a tennis shoe, and it was just painstaking how I taught myself that skill. And then even the swimming was very difficult for me, because I don't like to get water in my ears or in my nose. So I had all these clips and plugs, and it was really kind of funny. Well, so I finally, after 2 years, was ready to do the thing. It's a 17-hour endurance event. It's a 2.4-mile open ocean water swim, 140 miles on the bike, maybe 140 miles on the bike, and then 26.2 miles of running. So long story short, it was Panama City Beach, and I went out there, and the ocean had these 6-foot swells that day, and I had not trained in anything but Lake Lanier by my house and a pool. And so it just threw me off kilter completely, and I started getting really, really slow on the bike right afterwards, because I had swallowed so much ocean water. And I hadn't. It just felt really sick. Yeah, I didn't get sick, but I felt sick.
Yeah.
And, you got to drink all this fuel, as you're going, all these sugary crap.
Yep.
So anyway, I just didn't do very well, and on the bike. And 6 hours into the bike ride, so 8 hours into the event, this truck came up and said, "Ma'am, you're going to have to get off the course." And I looked at him and I said, "What do you mean I have to get off the course? I have 6 more hours of the bike to go." And he said, "Well, you're going too slow. You won't finish before sunset, and you got to be off the course by midnight. And there was 14 other people in this truck, and I thought I was in a bad dream. I'm like, there's
Oh,
no way
wow.
he's pulling me off the course. I didn't know this could happen. And long story short, a bunch of us got pulled off. I saw these grown men sobbing because they had trained their whole life for this.
Yeah.
We all had gotten pulled off course, and so it's called DNF, Do Not Finish. And so my book is about how I decided I will not let that be the end of my story to my path to Ironman, Cheri, because I had trained for 2 years for that.
Right.
And I had learned everything. I just didn't learn the course enough, and I was swallowing that water and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And so the book is about how I decided that day, well, it took me about a week of crying. I decided, you know what, I'm just going to train. I'm going to repeat my training, and I'm going to do another Ironman. And 8 weeks later, I crossed the Ironman finish line. I went from Panama City Beach to Naples, Florida, so just across the state of Florida, but I finished it.
That's
in
amazing.
17 hours exactly. And
Good for
yeah.
you.
Yeah, so it's just all about how not to let fear and failure define you.
Right. Well, I'm all about that because I'm a big proponent of you have to fail to learn, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, and that's how you have to look at your failures is, okay, that didn't work. And you have to then go, okay, what will work? Let's try this. Because if you don't, in my opinion, if you accept failure, you're just going to be miserable, right? And so, and I seriously applaud you for doing that because what an accomplishment! Like I used to run, but I did not run like anywhere near that distance. Mm-mm. I think I've done one 5K in my entire life, where I actually ran it. I've walked many of them for for different charity events and stuff, but that when I was a teenager, my father was a huge proponent of running, and so it was I don't know, I guess it was a bonding thing where he got me running, and but that was very, very long ago, people. I'm 57 now, so
yeah.
So in terms of learning from your failures and just kind of moving on with your life, not only is she a doctor and a triathlete, she also coaches people through the Soul Circle Academy. And I want you to talk about that because it's so fascinating to me because I'm the person who I always want to, in my head, while I'm doing, I guess it's after I'm doing things, I go, why did I do it that way? Like I always am thinking about the psychology behind why I've done something or why somebody else has done something. So I love this about you. So I'm sorry, I'm yakking. Go, tell them all about it.
No. So yeah, I would love to tell that story. So, COVID happened a few years ago, and I found myself with a lot of time on my hands. And I had been trying to kind of phase out of full-time medicine. Like I work in hospitals. And so the things that I see, Cheri, it's really sad. And I feel like I'm getting more tenderhearted now that I've gone through menopause, now that I'm an empty nester, now that I've gone through a divorce in my 50s. I feel like I'm just getting more and more tenderhearted. And I couldn't handle the things that I see. Amputations, elder neglect, you can just imagine what all you see in a hospital setting. And so I said, I want to get out of that. And I didn't feel like I was really making a difference in people's lives either. I know that's shocking to say as a doctor, but I just feel like people, they just don't listen to what we say, and they're so into the mentality of just give me a bottle of pills and I'll just keep doing whatever I want to do in my life. And then they just keep showing back up at the doorstep of the hospital every month. It's just very unfulfilling.
I get that. I was actually going to throw a story in here about my husband because I had said to him, this was years ago, I was like, okay, you're going to go for a physical and, blah, blah, blah. And he does that every year now. But I took him to my doctor, who I love. I love my doctor, my internist.
Me too.
And she said, okay, you need to be on cholesterol medication. And he got all indignant about it and said to me in the car, he was like, well, I'm never going to her again. And I said, why? He said, because she threw a bottle of pills at me instead of telling me to change my lifestyle. And I said, are you going to change your lifestyle? You know, and he was like, well, I think she should have said that first. And I was like, okay. So he goes to his own doctor now, and by the way, takes the cholesterol medication. But he was that person who was looking for somebody like you to say, okay, here's what you should do to avoid the medication, which is really what doctors should be doing, right? Not just throwing prescription bottles at people. But
yes.
I get your frustration with that, because
yes, and I have two things to say about that. Is number one, if somebody's cholesterol is currently 10% away from the goal, lifestyle modifications work. But if it's more than 10% away from the goal, you do need medicine to help that patient, because you're trying to minimize stroke and heart attacks.
Right.
So, that's.
Hey, listen, I still go to where I love her. So, Dr.
Yes.
Hashimoto, love you. But I'm sorry. But tell the story about Soul Circle Academy.
Yeah, so I was wanting to get out of medicine and do what I felt like was really lighting me up like a candle. Ever since I found, that triathlon, how I found I could tap into this enormous ability of perseverance and grit and stamina. I'm like, I think other people have this in them and they just don't really know it. And again, through a lot of time on my hands during COVID, because the numbers in the hospital were like 1/10 of what they used to be. No one would even go into the hospital, but we had to keep going to the hospital.
Yeah.
And so, as doctors, anyway, I have found a woman, and I got certified in these tools of trauma release. And I realized some of the things that were holding me back in leaving medicine and trying something new in my life were some limiting beliefs from my childhood that were holding me back. And, if I may tell the whole story, the truth of the story is that through an unfortunate series of events, my mom and dad kind of checked out when I was a teenager. I was the baby of the family. So I was 14, my brother was 19, and my sister was 18. And my brother would throw these huge parties. My parents knew about it, and they would leave me down there, 14-year-old Cindy with a 19-year-old brother, and they would start doing drugs. Like, I don't know what drugs. I was clueless to that.
Okay.
I'm thinking alcohol, marijuana, I don't know. But they would get high, and I would just try to go to bed because I was trying to go to school the next day. And guys started coming into my bedroom at night and doing things to me that they should not have been doing. And this would happen a few nights. And I, as a little 14-year-old girl, I didn't tell my mom and dad about what was happening. I didn't want to get my brother in trouble. I didn't want him to hate me. And so I just decided falsely that I was not worthy of protection from my mom and dad, and I wasn't worthy of love from a man. I was just like being used like that it was just disgusting what these guys were doing. And so I said to myself at 17, I want to get as far the crap away from this city as I can, because y'all are just a bunch of, I hate to say this about my family, but I'm like, y'all are a bunch of losers. You guys aren't protecting your kids. You guys are doing drugs and alcohol. I want to get the crap out of here. And so I did, and I went and got a degree. I went on to get an MD and a PhD in genetics, and I just said, I'm never going back home again. But in my 40s and 50s, Cheri, what I realized is that I was just kind of running away from the fact that this is really not the truth of who I am. It's not that I'm not worthy of protection. It's just that that's what I was telling myself. And so once I forgave myself for all that stuff that happened to me as a teenager, I just realized deep in my heart, I want to teach other women that they can forgive themselves too for what happened to them when they were little. And, when
is
you
it
find
always trauma-based? I'm sorry, is it always trauma-based?
It doesn't have to be trauma, like maybe how some people think of trauma. Like it doesn't have to be sexual abuse like mine was. It doesn't have to be, um, like you saw, it can be something like you saw your dad or your grandpa dying of cancer, and that really traumatized you by just
Gotcha.
seeing someone dying, or getting fired from a job that you loved, or
Okay.
getting ridiculed in school when you were in middle school because you weren't a popular kid. It can be anything.
Okay.
It damages and
Your
it
psyche.
your psyche, yes,
Yeah.
and it fills up your subconscious mind with these filters of I'm not worthy, you're stupid, you're ugly, you're unlovable, you're this, you're that, or the other thing. And so now I just help people rewire everything, get all the muck out, replace it with fulfilling thoughts, and then really go out and do whatever it is that they want to do in the world. That's what I do now, and it's been really really exciting what I've seen women and men accomplish with my tools that I've taught them.
I love that. I
Yes,
absolutely
thank you.
love that.
Thank
I,
you.
and how did you learn to do this? Can we kind of go back to
Yeah.
that?
Yeah. So, it's so funny. I have to credit this one lady named Geeta. I was taking her business course, and I had taken 9 business courses. I had spent $90,000
Oh my
trying to
goodness.
get this business off the ground, and I could not get this business off the ground. And she said, Cindy, I'm not taking one more penny, one more cent of your money. Something is going on with you. You're blocking your success. Before I allow you into my business program, you're going to have to do this other lady's subconscious trauma release program. I said, subconscious trauma release? I don't have any subconscious trauma that needs to be released. She said, if you want to get in my program, you have to do her course first. And
Wow.
so I'm like, holy shit, like she sees something I don't see. And I trusted this woman, like she just is a really amazing woman. And so yeah, it was through taking a course
Wow.
back in during COVID that Geeta made me take, and what I understood about myself, and the revelations that I got about myself, and things I remembered from my childhood, and how powerful I felt once I was done with all of that. That's how I learned about it. I don't even think most people even know you can do this kind of stuff, Cheri.
I I, I wouldn't have a clue. I really wouldn't.
Yeah,
If,
yeah.
had I not spoken to you, had you not written in and asked to be a part of the show, excuse me, I lost my voice there for a second. I wouldn't have had a clue that this was a thing. That I
Yeah.
mean, I guess you get that from lying on a psychologist's couch and talking about your life or whatever. But I've never heard of
Trauma
something
release.
so specific that you do, right?
Yeah.
And you've had a lot of success, good lord, I can't talk.
Yes.
You've had a lot of
Yes.
success with it.
Yes. Can I tell you one of my favorite client stories? This is
Yeah, please.
amazing. Oh my goodness. This lady, again, I do not know how she found me, but I think she works at some hospitals that I worked at in the past, and she reached out to me and booked a call, and she had been through some terrible, also sexual abuse at the hands of her father, and the worst thing that she shared was that sometimes uh, her mother would shut the door because she didn't want to hear
Oh
what was
my
going on. Instead of
God.
like kicking his ass out the house, she just shut the door. She'd have to listen to it. Well, so this woman had grown up. She was in her 50s or 60s at the time we worked together, and she had become a hoarder. She was just like hoarding dogs to try to like show herself. I think that she was worthy of love, and she had a mission in life, and she was so like a shell of a person when she first came to me. She even had lost her voice. Like her voice was very gravelly. And after like 4 clearings, they're called clearings, what I do in my program, and her voice started getting really clear, and I'm like, oh my goodness, your voice sounds completely different. And then she started cleaning her house so much more, and like putting the dogs out where they should be instead of inside. She just started like seeing her life in a completely different way. She even wrote a children's book on she used a cat as a metaphor for a kid that was getting abused. So I think the cat was getting kicked by the owner instead of a girl getting touched by her dad. But she used this metaphor, and she wrote a children's book, and to help other people give their kids a voice or words for the abuse that they're enduring. And then she started working at a horse farm where she kind of helps autistic kids feel loved again. So she's completely turned her life around in this time with me, and we still stay in touch, and she's doing fantastic. She speaks up at work now for herself. She just has a confidence about her that she never had before. It was just amazing, and who knows what she's going to do with the last 50 years of her life?
Right? Yeah, that amazing. And this is
amazing.
This is a 12-week course.
Yes, it's 12 weeks of. If you are willing to do the work, yes, you can get everything done in 12 weeks. And what we start with is we identify everybody, every place, person, and thing that had an influence over you. 95% of our subconscious mind is developed before we're 7 years old. So all these filters and societal messages and religious programming that we just kind of absorb like we're a sponge before 7,
right,
that's what gets to call the show and call the shots and run the show for the rest of our life. And so we get a list of everything that had an effect on you, especially age birth to 7, but then later, husbands, wives, jobs, schooling, church, things like that.
Yeah.
And then we do releases of all the negative influences that those things have had. And yeah, she just was so dedicated to doing the work. She was so ready to have her life back and to stop feeling like she was powerless in the world. And most of the people come to me, they've tried a bunch of other things, a bunch of other therapy, a bunch of books, bunch of retreats, and they're just really ready to stop kind of shooting themselves in their foot. And so they're willing to do the work, and we got it done in 12 weeks. And then I offer a continuity program, so I stay in touch with my clients once a week for as long as they want to, because I'm all about integration and support too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's quickly discuss how listening to, I'm assuming this is a full-time position for you, right? Doing this. I can't imagine, and I'm sure psychologists and there's other jobs that are the same way, but how do you listen to everybody's traumas and not have them affect you negatively?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and a lot of us that do this, we have lots of things. So just physically, we kind of turn the camera.
No.
No. Physically, we turn the cameras away from us if we're doing these clearings like on Zoom, so that we don't kind of like get bombarded with all of their emotional energy. I'm a firm believer in the power of everything God gave us in the earth, so that'd be crystals, and also just the power of the earth to kind of absorb things that aren't supposed to be ours. So I do spend a lot of time out in nature, and I have some grounding stones around me. But what we mostly do, and we also do a lot of when I say we, I mean me and all the other people that do this for a living.
Okay.
Epsom salt soaks, just try to get some toxins out of our body. If anything is kind of absorbing onto us, drink a lot of water. And then what we do is just a lot of self-care,
Yeah.
We connect with each other, all of us practitioners, and we do retreats once a year. And we have to really just do kind of a lot of baseline clearings on ourselves too.
Sure.
And I just know in my heart that everything I offer, these are just tools that I'm offering for these men and women. And it's not for me to take in. It's just for me to help them become healthy, whole, and healed.
Right.
And so I think it's just a way that I think about it too, And,
for sure, yeah.
Yeah, it's the same way I get through a career in medicine for 30 years. I mean, the stuff I saw there was sometimes more heartbreaking because it's just people in your face that are just not living their lives like they need to be living it because they're so sick.
It is sad.
Yeah. Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
how do people get a hold of you if they want to partake in this?
Yes, well, I have a freebie. I always give away
Ooh,
it's called
freebies.
a spark call. And so
Okay.
I hope I gave it to you. It's a Calendly link. It should be Cindy at, dot, well, I don't want to say the actual
Okay.
website name of it, but it's like drcindystark.com/, let's talk. That
Okay.
should lead them there.
All right.
No periods, no apostrophes, no hyphens, and that's a 15-minute spark call, so we can see if we have that connection that we could work together. But they can also find me on Facebook at Cindy Stark and just send me a DM. I'm there way too many hours a day, but that's where I really I take care of my clients on Facebook too. So
Awesome.
either one of those two places, yes, ma'am.
All right, good. Well, thank you for joining us today. I really do appreciate it.
Oh, you're so welcome. Thank you for having me here.
You are such a joy to talk to. People don't know this, but you and I had a conversation before we started recording, and you are just such a refreshing, like, breath of fresh air to talk to.
Thank you.
I just find you charming and sweet and genuine. So,
Thank you.
so thank you for that.
Thank
I
you.
hope everybody enjoyed the show. You can comment on this or any other show by reaching out to me at lifewithasherryontop@gmail.com or on my website, which is lifewithasherryontop.com. And again, Cheri is spelled Cheri. So thanks everybody for joining, and we'll talk soon. Bye-bye.